All right, so we're here today to talk about conversation and conformity in the family system. So let's get into it. First, you'll see that there's a amount of conformity and amount of conversation. So conformity is the amount of pressure you feel in your family to seem like a united front. And the amount of conversation means that you're allowed to have open discussions and express each of your opinions. Let's get into the first family orientation, which is consensual family. This is one that has a high amount of conversation and a high amount of conformity. So, what happens in these families is that you're allowed to express yourself and say what you want, but the ultimate choice usually comes down to your parents. So, this can be something like saying, "Hey, I think that I should have a later curfew now that I'm in college and I'm an adult." And they allow you to discuss that, but the ultimate choice of whether or not you get to raise the curfew is going to be up to them. So let's get to the next one, which would be a pluralistic family. This one would be a low amount of conformity and a high amount of conversation. So you might think of this as kind of the hippie parenting style, but it's where children can express themselves just as openly as adults can, and it's kind of a united decision on if you end up doing what you want. So it's you have an input, you're an adult. This is a lot of what people change to as adults as a family unit because there's not as much control or enforcement. And so you might respect your family and actually go to them for advice, which is the amount of conversation, but then you end up making your own choices. The next one would be the protective family. So you can think of this as the mama bear coming out, or maybe it's the father or somebody else that took over as the family role, parental role in your family. And what they do is there's a low amount of conversation and a high expectation for conformity. So what happens is this is a lot of the authoritative parenting where there's a lot of rules in the family, there's a lot of I'm the parent, so this is how it's going to be. And there's not a lot of pushback that's actually allowed to happen in your family. So it's the amount of pressure that you feel to actually stay within the rules that your parents have set for you or parent has set for you. So thinking about that. This leads to a lot more rebellion when people get older and a lot more emotional suppression. So just thinking about if you come from a protective family, how much does that make it seem like you don't want to talk things out in your own relationships in the future? So something to think about. And the last one is the laissez-faire parenting style. This is where there's a low amount of conversation and a low amount of conformity. So everybody kind of acts independent of each other in the family. So it doesn't create this strong bond within the family system. Everybody is able to make their own decisions, but you also may not go to your parents for advice. They might not be there. They might have a lot going on in their plate. And so this is something to think about in every family unit because you may have something where maybe the family's going through something and they need to concentrate on themselves. And so then they're not able to be there as much for their children. And so thinking about that, or if it's a long term thing. All of these family systems have lifelong impacts on our relationships. So that's something for you to consider is why we analyze our family systems is to know what impact it has on us. Then also, as you might be choosing to have a family in the future, what kind of parenting style do you want to actually embrace? So that'll be the next step is actually thinking about what your family orientation is. All right.